Okay, just gonna wait for myself to pop up. Ariel Marshall is here. Okay, let's just see that the audio and video are working. And yes, hang on. Well, yes, it's working, and I'm live. It's the Nazarite bringing you Hebrew lore from days of yore. Ariel Marshall is here. Sen Neezer is here. Shalom, everyone, indeed. Look at that, I'm not even a minute in, 2 people here and 1 like. I give thanks. I don't take it for granted, as I say that. I hit go live, and there are people here, and we're having a dialogue, and it's awesome. So it's a new moon. It's a new moon, it's Elul. Hey, Ella is here. Hello, Ella, good to see you. So I hope to continue the chat from, was it last Wednesday? No, a few days ago, well, last week, basically. I think I finished the chat from last night. I arrived just as I was ending. I arrived at the end of the chat, and I may have last Monday or last Monday going anyway, but I want to, a few comments here. What's going on, dude? Well, it's been a long day. I am tired. It's 20 minutes before 11 p.m., but I'm interested in going live. I hope that I won't be too tired, and if I see that I'm rambling, if I see that I'm feeling those waves of tiredness wash over my brain, I'm going to stop because, I want to give you 110%. Hey, Robert is here as well. Good to see you guys, my regulars. It's so much fun. Let's start with an interesting one. Speaking of new moons, Carlo Pomeriggio asked today, or he said today, he says, if I were in charge of distributing aid to the people in Gaza, I would see to it that ethnogens, DMT, psilocybin, salvia, herb, and so on, would be handed out to the Palestinians. The reason being, he says, ethnogenic plant compounds elevate consciousness and destroy the tendency of the desire to harm others. And he quotes Ezekiel 47, verse 12. I'm not sure which translation he's using, but I'll read what he wrote here, what he quoted. And by the river upon the bank thereof, on this side and on that side, shall grow every tree for food, whose leaf shall not wither, neither shall the fruit thereof fail. It shall bring forth new fruit every month, because the waters thereof issue out of the sanctuary. And the fruit thereof shall be for food, and the leaf thereof for healing. Alim letrufa, they say in Hebrew. I submit this last line, he says, and the leaf thereof for healing, that it includes all types of healing plants, including ethnogens. Love to hear your thoughts. Shalom. So here's what I told him just a few minutes ago before I went live. I told him I think that plant medicine, and those of you who follow me for a while will know this already, plant medicine is very important and highly beneficial, I say. It's been part of humankind since time immemorial. It can definitely elevate consciousness, bring people together. As for handing it out as aid, I honestly don't know, I told him. Difficult to tell. It sounds good on paper, but because everything and anything can be tainted and misused, corrupted, and weaponized, there's a chance that it would end up doing more harm than good. Bloodshed, baseless hatred, murderous ideologies, world-dominating religions. Throw in psychoactive plants into that mix, and it could cause a lot of trouble. Or maybe I'm way off. Your thoughts. So what are your thoughts if people handing out aid in war zones, if they would be handing out plant medicine, right, ethnogens, herb and salvia and DMT and psilocybin, what would be the effect there? I wonder. There have been people who have thought that, somebody should spike the water with LSD, people should spike the water with DMT, but you really don't know how a psychoactive plant will play out until you do it yourself, until you take it. And because set and setting are crucial and paramount to the experience, the outcome, the way that you integrate what it is that you have hopefully learned, I don't think that it's something that can be done. I don't know, it's something that I need to give so much more thought to, and I think I would err on the side of caution and not do that, or at least, I don't know, not spike with the water definitely, but hand it out as aid. I don't know. I really don't know. It's very difficult to tell, like I said. But you people out there, what do you think? I'm curious. All right, hey, Carlo is here from the beautiful state of Louisiana. Shalom to everybody, says Carlo. Hello, hello, Carlo. So what do you think? How about everyone outside Louisiana, said Sneezer. Heard there's a black moon coming. Black moon meaning what? I mean, it's a new moon now. No signal for 10 minutes, but you will all be on my mind. Ariel Marshall, keep cycling, do your thing. Thank you for being here for the first few minutes. I appreciate it. Sneezer says to Robert, yeah, had to Google what black moon means. Second new moon of month or fourth of season. So let's do this together. What does black moon mean? The black moon, let's see, what is a black moon? Like a blue moon, says Google. This is from CNN. A black moon isn't an official term, but it refers to the second new moon in a month. It happens once every 29 months. A new moon occurs when only its far side is illuminated by the sun, making it invisible from Earth. It marks the beginning of the lunar cycle. Right, so the dark side of the moon, but it's illuminated by the sun, so we don't see it, but it is a new moon. I don't quite see how that works as far as the Earth is concerned, if we can't see it, because part of a new moon, at least according to halacha, according to when the courts used to decide when the new moon is, now they had to make these decisions in order to know when certain festivals land, right, on what date they land. 6 out of 12 months, they would send out messengers, shluchim, to the diaspora. And these people who would go out into the diaspora and to say, oh, the new moon occurred on X day, so this is how you know when to celebrate this, that, or the other. They could break the Sabbath and they could do all kinds of things. And they used to, it says it, where is it? Is it in Masechet Rosh Hashanah? I think in the Mishnah. It lays out the way in which they used to signal the new moon to those in the diaspora after or during them sending out the messengers. They would bring a lot of long pillars, right? Stakes, spears, right? Long pieces of wood, and they would wrap them in burning material and oil, and they would be and a person would stand on the top of the mountain of a mount of olives, presumably, and he would be set it afire, he would set it aflame, and he would pick it up and put it down and bring it forth and bring it back until he would see somebody do it on the mountain which he can see. These were specific periods of specific mountains that would be one signal to the other. It's very reminiscent of the beacons of Rohan, right, to Gondor, right, where you would have one signaling to the other, signaling to the next, and to the next, and to the next, until it traversed that space using a flame as the signal. And that and the shluchim, the messengers to the diaspora, is how they would either one or the other, one came before the other. I don't recall exactly what the Mishnah says, but there was that method of how do you signal the new moon. And the final one on the final mountain, he would do it until he would see the entire diaspora, because people would go up on their roofs or on mountaintops and whatever, and they would light and kindle their own staffs, or stakes of wood, and he would see them all doing it, right, up and down, forth and back, and this is how it used to be done. I love that. Now, nowadays, in the diaspora, there is still the tradition of keeping holidays for 2 days. In other words, it's a 2-day Passover holiday, 2 days of Yontif, 2 days of a holy day, the first 2 days, 2 days of Shavuot, 2 days of Sukkot, and so on, because of this idea that they may or may not have gotten there on time. And this also occurs in the new moon when it was mandated or decided by the courts, right? You would have people who would witness the birth of the new moon, and they would come to the court, and the elders, the sages would ask them, did you see it this way or that way? Was it at this angle or that angle? And they would be able to ascertain through the witness, through the testimony of two people. And there's a difference of opinion or a dispute on whether or not they could be related, but that's beside the point. And they would be able to sometimes, so the new moon would sometimes be twice, right? There's 2 days of Rosh Chodesh, 2 days of a new moon, even though technically speaking it is on one day, and this still carries on to this day in the diaspora and in Israel, and it also has to do with the Hebrew calendar and the way that the dates are set up. So a black moon, interesting, very interesting. Okay, let's see. No, I don't know basic astrology. I'm sorry to say, Sneezer. Oive. It's not ove, it's oive. No, I don't know basic astrology. I mean, what would you consider basic astrology? I know a bit of the Hebrew astrology, nothing in depth. But things that were written in Sefer Yetzirah and things that were written in other sacred texts. And each moon, each Rosh Chodesh, each new moon has a specific name of God, a specific Yod He Vav He combination with a different punctuation. Again, because each type of punctuation, each type of nikud signifies a different divine revelation. And they would take these Yod He Vav He's from the beginning and ending of verses, and it's a whole thing. And this is what the Hebrew names correspond to every minute, every hour, right? Daytime, nighttime, the day, the week, the month, the year. Sanizer says DMT in a war zone? F no. See, that's exactly what I'm saying. I've never tried DMT myself. I might do it at some point. It's certainly intriguing. Although I think I would be more inclined for a lengthy ayahuasca ceremony than a short DMT ceremony, but of course, DMT is the active ingredient component in ayahuasca, if I'm not mistaken. It's just that it's a lot more drawn out, right? Something like that. I know that DMT trips are called the businessman's trip because it's very, very short. Psychedelics in a war zone would cause mass PTSD. See, that's what I'm thinking. Set and setting. If you're in the middle of rubble and you can barely feed your family and drones are flying and combat airplanes and tanks on the horizon and you're tripping, oh my God, I would be so frightened. I would be so scared. I would curl up in the fetal position and cry and shudder until it was over. Or at least that's what I think that I would be doing. Robert says, no, narcotics, I say, spike the word with the scripture of God's word and love. No narcotics. Oh, so it's not no, it's no narcotics spike the word. I'm not sure what you mean. I'm not sure what you mean. Robert, could you say what you mean? I'm not exactly following you here. Cool name, Carlo, says Ariel. Bwahaha, said Sneezer. They couldn't count a 28-day pattern? Well, again, it has to do with the calendar of the entire year. It has to do with the calendar, the calendar of seven, right? 7 years, and 7 times 7, and the 50th year, the Jubilee. It all has to do with that. But I think that the calculations that the sages did as far as the lunar cycles and the solar cycle is concerned, I think they were fairly accurate for the time being, right? At the time. They may still be fairly accurate, but the Hebrew calendar is what it is because of the days of old. So even if there are technically more accurate calendars, there's something about the Hebrew calendar that is more accurate for the Hebrew people, I guess, something like that. Robert says, I'm not in shape as I should be, but hike a mountain the other day. Wow, that crazy hard but fun. So, I mean, was it for intermediate level? Was it a novice level, expert level? How much was the hike? How high did you get? How long was it, I mean? How long did you actually hike? Carlos says, I've read online. Wait, hang on, I'll take a sip of tea. I've got some chai here. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akol yeh bidvaro. Ah, good, good, good. God bless. And with this blessing of the tea, I will just say that I hope we all have a good new moon full of peace, prosperity, good things, right? Health, wealth, and spiritual and the physical. And may we come together and unite. Unite, right? We're all on one earth with one moon. But Miley Cyrus has, we only have one moon, one sun, one me, one you. I've read online, says Carlo, that Harvard University Medical School is doing many ongoing studies involving ethnogens to treat trauma of various kinds with much success thus far. I think I heard recently that the FDA put the kibosh, or at least temporarily, on MDMA. Now, that's not a plant medicine, that's a synthetic compound, but still, having to do with this, that they I don't know if they did it temporarily or if they put like a final no-no on it for the time being. I don't know. But yeah, they canceled, or they didn't cancel, but they said that MDMA will not be joining the the list of prescribed medication or whatever it is, for therapy or psychiatric medication, trauma care. I think that, look, that's a problem. It's a problem because I think MDMA under the right circumstances can be highly beneficial, and it has been proven, I think, to be beneficial. But again, it's very dangerous. It's dangerous to introduce these compounds into a mind that is, I don't know, not ready, can't deal with it. I don't know. We all react so differently to psychedelics and things like MDMA. So even though there's a lot of benefit to them, is it worth the risk? That's what the FDA, I think, is handling. That's what they need to handle. The question of whether or not it's worth the risk. Now, it could be that they are under the control of the federal government, of course. It's the FDA. So I don't know what to tell you. I don't know enough about it, but I know that it definitely does have its place. I hope that it will receive its rightful place. I hope that all plant medicines will receive their place in care, mental and physical care for human beings. And again, I think it's not necessarily that they can cure anything, but A, they can broaden your perspective, and B, they can be a sort of preemptive, healthcare, something that you do before you get ill, before you get sick, before your mind goes to pieces, before the trauma, that can fortify you and give you the tools to deal with the illness, with the disease, with the trauma, physical, mental, spiritual, what have you, because we are all heading towards tragedy. Even if none of you right now, God bless, none of you should experience tragedy, but it's definitely on the way. Small, large. I had a conversation back and forth with, I don't remember who it was. With Be Confident in Your Faith here on YouTube about Yisurim, the concept of Yisurim, of suffering. So to preempt certain things and to take care, to have healthy visits to the psychologist or psychiatrist or physician, or healthcare practitioner, to have healthy visits. Do it while you are still healthy and fortify yourself and make it so you will be able to withstand the storms of life that are definitely coming, right? You build an ark out of yourself to withstand the flood. You know what I'm saying? And you can take your family inside of that ark, and you can take, right? You know what I'm saying? There are 13 lunar cycles in 1 year. Well, yes, sometimes we have what's called Adar Bet. We have a 13th month in the Hebrew calendar. Every so often it pops up. Again, this is pre-calculated, and every so often it pops up. Ella, we're talking Gregorian. Well, yes, we all go by the Gregorian calendar in the Western world, but the Hebrew calendar still has a ton of significance. And whether it's the cycles or whether it's the divine names that correspond to the cycles, of the day, of the week, of the month, of the year, of the 7 years, the Sabbath of the land, the Jubilee, that whole thing. Pardon me. 13, love, unity, ahava, echad. And ahava and echad, 13 plus 13 is 26, which is the gematria of Yod He Vav He. Sanizar said to Elah, I think that's under 13 tribe perspective. Yes, the thing with the 13th month is that it corresponds to the tribe of Levi. Right? We know that the tribe of Levi in certain cases is counted as one of the 12 tribes, and in other cases it is not counted as one of the 12 tribes, and in that case, it's not that they become 13, it's that the 12 tribes, if they do include Levi, then it's Yosef and Levi. And if they don't include Levi, Yosef breaks down into Menashe and Ephraim. And so you have 12 either way. The question is whether or not the tribe of Levi is counted among those 12. For instance, in dividing up the land after conquering Canaan, Levi, very famously, the tribe of Levi, the priests and the Levites have no land, right? Adonai is their inheritance, not a piece of land. And in that case, we know that the tribe, for instance, of half the tribe of Menashe had their inheritance east of the Jordan, and half the tribe of Menashe west of the Jordan. The tribe of Levi was given 48 cities, right? The cities of refuge, and the different tribes of the 12 tribes gave the people of Levi different cities within their own inheritance, and this is where the priests and the Levites would make their homes. I love the fact that the Levites and the priests were in the cities of refuge. I think that's very, very telling. Okay, wow. I like this tea. I really do. I'm so grateful. So grateful. I was not sure if to go live, but I've been on for 20 minutes now, and it's so much fun. I'm very happy I decided to hit that button, and it's nice to have you people here with me. Robert says they say they found the oldest Neanderthal in Israel, but I don't believe in a Neanderthal. So, Robert, what do you believe in? Do you believe in that missing link, or what do you believe as far as human evolution? Do you believe we came from apes? How do you reconcile what is being found? I'm curious. Elas said the old day they went by lunar cycles, not Gregorian. Well, see, here's the thing, that the Hebrew calendar is lunar and solar. Lunar and solar, and so that's why we take some of this and a little of column A and a little of column B, and we make our calendar with that. Oh, spike the water. I see, okay. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. The chat just jumped. Okay, yeah, 13 tribes. Where was he? Where were we? Okay. Robert Harrison, Sneezer says that's coincidental. I don't believe in Israel. Well, okay, that's your prerogative. Shalom Aleichem. James Bong is in the house. Hello, James Bong. Carlo asks, on another topic, I've always wondered, can a convert to Judaism be eligible to be the Messiah, or must one be born Jewish? As far as I know, a convert is immediately a brother or sister in the covenant, which means that they can be an anointed one. They can be kings, and they can be prophets, and they can be deliverers, right? They can't be priests or Levites, but they can be part of the Hebrew people, which makes them eligible to be Messiah. And we know that Messiah means anointed one. And even though there is the idea of the Messiah, the final Messiah, perhaps, that will come from the house of David, from the tribe of Judah, it doesn't have to be that way. That's not a prerequisite for deliverance, but there are different prophecies pertaining to the house of David and the tribe of Judah, but it always comes back to that unity. And if it's unity, it means we are together, and if we're together, it can be anybody. Sneezer says, okay, so the moon goes around the earth every 28.25 days, and when it's near the sun, it's a new moon, when on the other side, a full moon. Okay. LOLHN trying to go to the spirit world. I never tried, I want to. You know, I've been to the spirit world many times, and most of the time it wasn't induced by any kind of external psychoactive compound or plant. Many times that spirit world is your inner world, right? That is your spirit. It's you making a significant connection to the divine image that you are, right? To that divine soul that is inside of you, outside of you. I mean, that's the way I see it anyway. Sneezer says to Carlo, a Messiah would have to do better than Jesus, and I don't see how that could be possible, considering how many he's brought under one Father. Well, okay, a Messiah, I mean, look, the plain old Messiah is somebody who is anointed as king and leads the people of Israel. Presumably, nowadays, it would be somebody who rallies them under one banner, unifies the people, makes peace, builds the temple, if you want to go in that direction of a physical temple being reconstructed and rebuilt. So I think bringing the people together is something that can be done by any Messiah. It's a question, as always, of whether or not the people are ready for the Messiah, ready to anoint him, and ready to receive that kingship, right, and become a kingdom, which is why I also say it's not necessarily a must. We could bypass that Messiah, that Messianic age, and not in a bad way, not in a shortcut kind of way, but in a way where we get in touch with our spirit, let's say, collectively as individuals as well, and be able to go forth. I think he meant spike the water with the word, said Sneezer. Okay, that makes more of a more sense, I suppose. Robert says, crazy taking a break from work for DMT. Hey, you know what? I worked, what was it? Almost 19 years ago, I was a telemarketer in Israel working for AOL, or on behalf of AOL. And I was calling people. I was working 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., right, US hours. And I had a friend there who would bring joints to work. And it blew my mind. As much as I love herb, you know, Mary Jane is all good in my book, but I could not fathom going out for a break, you know, for 5 minutes and taking a few hits on a joint, and then coming back and having to deal with being a telemarketer. It seemed like, I mean, I'm not judging, I didn't judge him, but it's like, oh my God, I would never want to do that ever. For instance, when I used to work in sound and lighting, that was a lot more I could do that a lot. It was a lot. There were several times when I did do just that. Where one of my friends over there, one of the crew, would spark up a J, and I was like, okay, yeah, sure, I'll take a hit. But to go and take a few, to go and take a puff in the middle of a break from your telemarketing job overnight, I was like, what are you doing? I never told him this, of course. I kept it to myself, but I definitely did not do that, nor would I want to do that. But yeah, taking a break for a DMT trip. What a trip. Elas says, I met Patricio Dominguez, the shaman who took a DMT for university study, The Spirit Molecule on YouTube. So yeah, that's the name of a book, right? Who wrote The Spirit Molecule? Was it the same dude who wrote Brave New World? Oh, the name escapes me. I don't remember. Spider Rules. Are you a sinner? I am definitely a sinner. The thing is that despite my sin, despite my transgressions, despite the things that I do when I anger my fellow man or woman, or the divine revelation, the bad things that I do, I acknowledge them, I speak them, whether it's to myself, whether it's to God, whether it's to a trusted friend or my woman. I think confession is very important, and I believe that even though I am a sinner, there is a part of me that hopefully, I will go with that part of me more than the sinful part. And eventually it will tip the scales. And it doesn't mean that the sin will go away. It means that I will be able to transcend it, and other things will make themselves manifest. I will always be missing the mark. There's no such thing, as far as I'm concerned, for me personally to live completely blameless and pure white snow without sin. It's like, no, but there are things that need to be done despite the sin, and having the capacity or wanting, having the desire and acting on it to make yourself better in spite of your sin, to do what's right in spite of the things you're doing wrong. Having faith that if you can do things that are wrong, you can do things that are right. If you can break things, you can also repair them. This is the right. I often think of that a Japanese ancient tradition, or how ancient I don't know, of repairing ceramics, right, and china, and things that broke, right, vases with gold, inlaying them with gold, and from something broken you create something A, beautiful, and B, more valuable since there's gold in it. And I see that "are you a sinner" question, I see it as that, yes, I'm very, very broken. I'm very broken. Things that I brought on myself, things that I was born into, nurture, nature, what have you, things that I do willfully, things that I do accidentally, places where I am arrogant, places where I am full of pride, full of lust, full of, all the negative things. So A, I think there's room for all of those and you can make them into positives. But B, it's working in that sense that yes, I can take this broken vase and I can inlay it with gold. I can put gold between the cracks and put it together and glue myself back together in a way which transcends or is even better than the original. Something like that. So uh, let's just leave it at that. 4 to 5 mile hike, mediate level. Okay, that's great, Robert. I'm glad do you think you'll do it again? Do you think you'll do the same one? Would you want to go somewhere else? I recall you saying yesterday or the day, whenever it was, that you haven't hiked in a very long time, or maybe ever. Like up a mountain, I mean. Samizar says, considering how many astrological patterns are buried in the Torah or Bible, no, I won't get into them. Do your own research, lol. I'm amazed, he says, anyone who studies doesn't at least know the basics. Well, look, the basics, in the sense of the Earth and its cycle, the Moon and its cycle, the Sun and its cycle, the solar system and its cycle, the galaxy, the neighborhood of galaxies, and so on. That is the basics. Now, you also have that idea of the moon inching slowly away from the Earth, and you have that idea of the Earth slowing. Is it slowing down or becoming more rapid? I don't remember. Microseconds, micromillimeters, but it's happening because because the universe is expanding, and it's expanding faster and faster. So that affects us. Spider Rules says, this is artificial, guys. This ain't real. AI generated stream. You know what? If I were artificial intelligence, I don't know. Is this all AI generated? Is this all a simulation? What do you think, Spider Rules? If you're still here, what do you think, good people? Miley Cyrus to me is annoying, says Robert. Well, I don't know what she's been doing lately, but like I said, I enjoyed her trippier albums. And I don't know what she's doing now, but she's got a good voice, or had a good voice. Like I said, I don't know what she's doing now. And she's written some interesting lyrics. As for being annoying, I wouldn't know. I don't know her, I don't know her thing. She was a at least at the time, the things that I listened to way back, 15 years ago, I don't know how long, those albums came out, she was not just a provocateur. It seems that she was really exploring and trying to find herself. And after all those years with Disney and Hannah Montana, and she broke out, so the pendulum swung from here all the way to there, and perhaps she found a balance. Spider, no, it's not. We've been watching for years, says Sneezer. Yes, indeed. And I've been doing this for years. I've been doing it for 6 years. This particular channel, I mean. I had a few other channels before that doing other things. And some of the same things, actually. Sneezer says, since long before AI was good enough to fake live stream, at least. What he means, says Aviel, is that reality is AI generated, right? So that's the some people say that. Spider Rule says, my cousin went live and YouTube didn't allow him. Why are you lying? And he got 300k subscribers. Okay, good for your cousin. Is he still going live? Drop a link. Maybe we'll check him out. Sneezer says, well, that I'm not entirely sure I can argue, lol. And if I did, would he not see it as bot defense? You mad, bro? He asked Spider Rules. God's number, Sheva, 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 777, says Robert Harrison. Now, okay, let's see. Why can't he see my comment? I do see it. I see it now. You wrote this at 5 to 11, and it's now 11:08. So hopefully you're still here. Maybe you're still here, maybe not. Okay. I know what's going on. Israel is behind it. Behind what? What do you mean? AI live stream? Israel is doing all kinds of stuff. I'll give you that, but I have no idea. Sneezer told him, give him time, he's about 4 minutes behind. Yes, now I'm even more than that. Aye, says Ariel Marshall. What do you mean, aye? Oh, AI. Gotcha. Sorry. See? Hey. Spider Rules, your generation is so ADHD, said Sneezer. Oh, wait, it just jumped. Sorry, the chat just jumped. I need to figure out where I was. Where am I? Where am I? Oh, wow, a lot going on in the chat now. Oh, so I see Spider Rules is still here, or at least was a minute ago. I just passed by one of his comments. Okay, hang on a second. Where was I? Yes, here I am. At least hit like while you're waiting, Spider Rules, said Sneezer. Thank you, people. I appreciate that. The Juminator, said Sneezer to Robert. You, like your father, the devil, Setanyahu, gonna die next year. Next year? Why not right now? I believe in Bereshit 1. I see. So Robert, you take the story of creation quite literally? And if you do, no shade, but how do you explain the fact that it says that the earth was around, water was around, firmament was around, sky, right? Before day and night, before sun, moon, and stars. Now, there are those who say that those things were around, but they really came into being and got into their cycle that we know now on the fourth day, whatever that means. But you, very simply, how do you, if you take it literally, how do you understand it, right? What is your understanding? Sneezer says, see, I'm earning my bread here just for Gen ADHD here, otherwise he'd never learn anything. Anointed devils, said Spider Rules. Anointed devils, what do you mean by that? I'm curious. Spider Rules, if you are here, what do you mean? I'm not saying you're wrong. For all I know, well, I haven't been anointed as far as I know, not by anyone. And as for being a devil, I am an adversary to several people, that's for sure. Ariel says, is his tea computer generated? Nay or aye? Sneezer says, I've had a fair experience with psychedelics, and the only time it was spiritual was when it was natural, undosed DMT. Really, that's the only time. I'm curious. What other psychedelics have you been have you had experience with, if you don't mind sharing? And a fair experience, yes, but what was the set and setting? You know what I mean? Was it a party or a concert, or was it you in silent darkness, 5 grams of dried mushrooms? What type of trip was it? Spider Rule says Netanyahu is the Antichrist. He is doing his behind the scenes. Be careful. Well, look, I really don't know what you mean by Antichrist. What you, Spider Rules, mean. And, I haven't voted for him, and I won't vote for him even whenever there's an election. I haven't voted in 20 years, but I wouldn't vote for him if he's running next time. AI Nazarite says, Sinizer Bereshit, be back. He says to Robert. Not following it, but okay, he wasn't speaking to me, he was speaking to Robert. Robert says, Jesus brought a lot of people to believing in God, in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. No argument there. If there's one thing that Jesus, right, that Yeshua did, is bring a lot of people under that banner of one God. The thing is that if you take the Trinity into account, I know some people consider it a mystery, some people say that there's an actual separation, but they're together. I don't know how it works. I'm not a Christian. I don't believe in Jesus' divinity, nor in the Trinity. I believe, that God reveals himself in creation through the 10 Sfirot, but I don't know God. But yes, Jesus did bring a lot of people into believing in the Hebrew God. So yeah, I'll give you that. Spider Rule says, Robert, you lack knowledge, unfortunately. Devil's Babies. Devil's Babies. It's a good name for a band. James Bong says, LOL, I'd have to get baked out of my mind to be a telemarketer. Ah, okay. So yeah, maybe. Maybe that's the case. Maybe he had to do that just to get through it. Now, I lasted 5 or 6 months in that job as a telemarketer. I mean, between 4 and 6 months. I've mentioned it before. I'm glad I don't do that anymore. I really, really am. It was quite an experience. I wouldn't do it again. Robert says, where Israelis cuss you out for telemarketing calls? Oh, where Israelis cuss you out for telemarketing calls? I'm not sure what you mean by that. I definitely got cussed out, that's for sure, when I used to call people. All the people you have to put up with, LOL. Yes, exactly. Most of the shift was immediate hang-ups. And, you'd get the people who are asking you what you're wearing and, tell you all kinds of sexual things, and you'd hang up on that too, on your end. And you would have people you would get, they would have you pitch, and, they would say, yes, 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 all good, yes, sign me up, ba, 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 ba. And then for the final confirmation, click, and I didn't make a sale. Sinizer says to Robert, ask most Christians, and they'd say it's Yahweh, the jealous one. Well, look, Sinizer, I know you're talking to Robert, but I'll address that. Even if you say that they are talking about a specific facet of God, it is a facet of the Hebrew God that is commonly, right? Yod Heh Vav Heh is commonly known these days as the Hebrew God, even though you could say that the origins are of other cultures, other faiths, other pantheons of gods. Nowadays, Yod Heh Vav Heh is the Hebrew God. Spider Rule says, first you fund Hamas, and when things went wrong, you blamed your brothers. I'm not sure which brothers you mean, and I know that there is this idea of the government funding Hamas in order to cause a rift between Hamas and the other terrorist facets and groups. These are all, this is chess, not checkers. And I'm not a good chess player at all. I don't have, I think, the capacity to fully understand. Also, because A, I don't have all of the information in front of me. B, even if I had all the information in front of me, I don't think I have the mind for making these connections, information, disinformation, misinformation, intelligence, counterintelligence, that whole thing. It's like I'm just a simple dumbass in the Middle East, and this is way bigger than me. So I don't know what to say. If you say that it's something that Israel is doing, and that we are placing false blame and that it's us to blame, well, okay, if you start the clock at you funded Hamas, then yeah, sure, you can make that argument. But Hamas was founded by the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood, has its origins in spreading Islam and that whole thing. So I don't quite see where you're getting at, Spider Rules. It all depends on how far back you go. You could start the clock 5 minutes ago, 5 years ago, 50 years ago, 500 years ago, 5,000 years ago. The Hebrew people have been around for all of that. So, Spider Rules, Sinizer says he has no clue he funds Hamas, though they don't tell him. Well, look, I know that it's something that's been it's something that Netanyahu and his government have been accused of, but I don't know any truth. Like I say, by the time things reach me, my ears, my eyes, my schnoz, it's already propaganda. It's already infused with an agenda, and somebody is trying to make me think X, Y, or Z. Somebody is trying to manipulate me into going with a specific narrative. Somebody is trying to cause me to think like this, do like this, act like this, support this dude, not support that other dude. But on the other hand, right, so that's things I don't know. On the other hand, I do know plenty of people who are still in active duty, even people from my own platoon that was disbanded, and that's why I don't do reserve duty anymore, because I got older. But people who were younger in my platoon, when my platoon was disbanded, they got transferred to other platoons inside of my regiment, and so they are either on the outskirts of Gaza or in Gaza or. And when they tell me things, them I believe. That is first-hand witness accounts. And you could even make the argument that it's just, how far do you want to take it? Right, like with the funding, it's how far do you want to take it? Do you want to say that everybody in the IDF is a killer? Do you want to say that everybody in the IDF is the IOF, the Israeli Occupation Force? Do you want to say that everybody is lying to everybody all the time about everything constantly? That's not sustainable. It's definitely not sustainable across time. It's not sustainable in large populations. Certain things, when the numbers grow, things break down, and you need to have a different paradigm. And I don't think that this paradigm of Israel evil, I don't think it holds water. Because even if you can find specific instances and individuals that cause harm and are wicked and malevolent, and no doubt they exist, and Israel has done plenty of things that are wrong, but by and large, a significant portion of Israel, its history, is for the good, even though it may seem horrible to people who hate Israel. Israel is not a state, it's a people. Well, it became a state, much like it became a kingdom when a king was anointed. But yes, we were a collection of tribes, and we became one people under that one banner, right, serving the one Hebrew God in this land. That's what we became. But Israel started off as a collection of tribes. And even if you say, right, there are people who do the research, archaeologists and historians who say that we didn't, it's not 12 tribes from the line of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It's just tribes that were in the area of the Levant and who came together under this one flag of Israel. But that it's not the way that it happened in the Torah. To which I say, cool, that might be de facto what happened historically, but the Torah is laying out a way to view reality, a way to view yourself as a Hebrew man or woman, and what is your deal? What is it that you are supposed to be doing here? So if you want to say it's not a state, it's a people, or are you referencing Ragnarok? Are you referencing Thor Ragnarok, right? The Asgard is not a place, it's a people. It also, right, it's an ethnic group, and it's a nation, and it's a faith, right? It's a religion. It's all of these things together. Ariel says, I think that a Messiah would probably have to fit the definitions for a Messiah better than Jesus, Senizar. Well, look, Jesus, I think, even though he may have had the capacity for being Messiah, I don't think he was ever anointed by the people and accepted as king of the Hebrews. So even though he could have been a great scholar, a prophet, a sage, all of those things, he was not anointed as king. I think someone told me, and I remember reading that there was one person, a woman, who anointed his head and his feet with oil, or was it water? I don't recall exactly right now. But even if we grant that and say that he was anointed by this one individual, the people did not accept him, and that makes a difference. Much like Saul was first anointed by Samuel, but he only became king de facto when the people, right, when they drew lots and all that, and they accepted him as king. And then that whole thing with Amalek, but it has to do, right, there's a phrase, Ein melech belo am. There is no king without a kingdom. There is no king without, constituents, right, without the people of the kingdom. So Messiah would have to fit a certain definition, yes. Messiah would have to be anointed by the people, yes. Now, you could have a time in between, like Samuel and Saul, because we always have at any given moment different people who are potential messiahs, all the time. The question is whether or not we merit their kingship, whether or not we accept them. It could be that we have somebody who right now is a prophet and is anointing a king of Israel right now at this very moment. But it would take time, presumably, for him to be revealed and for him to be accepted, and for him to take the throne. And that's the well, that's a difficult thing to achieve. Ideally, I think it would come at a time when we are together. Either it will bring it about, or it will be because we are together that the king would be able to rule. I don't know how it will happen. I don't know how it will go down. But I think that if there is a king, it means that we are ready for a king, right? For the return of the king. So Nisa says to Spider, it's all through taxes like any country. Yeah, my tax shekels are being spent on tons of things that I wouldn't want them to be spent on. But if I want to live in a society, it means that I have to take the good with the bad. And it means that it means that some of my money would go towards things that I don't consider to be in my best interest, in the interest of those around me. So I don't know what to think. On the other hand, I know that there have been times when that money that everybody pours into the state, to the state's, what would be the word? Anyway, the vault, the treasury, that it has benefited me. And so while I agree that there are certain things that money is being spent on that maybe ought not be spent on, that's the way that it is right now. And to bring about change, it means legislation, it means politics, and it means statesmen, and it means that they need to be honest and true, and that there is a lack of that. Because in order for you to be a politician or a statesman or woman that gets into the higher echelons, you can't do that without getting dirty. Or so it would seem to me as an outside observer of the politics. It's almost impossible to reach those higher echelons of statehood and politics without dirtying yourself, without tainting yourself, or being painted as such by others, by your rivals. It's so convoluted and it's so blech. And me, like I said, an average dumbass, I don't know what goes on. I really don't. I don't know what goes on. I'm sort of keeping my head down and trying to do my thing. And should it come to pass that I would be able somehow to widen my radius of influence, of understanding, of action, then I hopefully will be able to do that with all due caution and humility. But right now, I say this with no shame or, I don't know, it's just me, my family, those around me. My radius is very, very small. But I hope, God willing, to be able to lead such a life where I will be able to expand my radius and my influence and be able to actually merit it and be worthy of it, so it won't go awry and it won't cause harm. And that's a very delicate balance, and I'm not there yet, to be sure. Others are much better off. They are not Jews, but blasphemers. You know what? A blasphemous Jew is a Jew nonetheless. A sinning Jew is a Jew nonetheless. If we hold and we are under the covenant of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, it means that we are still, and if we are either convert or are from the original kingdom of Judah, we are Jews. That's what we are genetically, and as far as the Torah and commandments are concerned. Even if we don't keep all the Torah and the commandments, we are still Hebrews. We are still Jews nonetheless. So we are blaspheming Jews. Sinisa says to Ariel, furthermore, I don't see anyone doing better than Jesus, not before world peace. That's an argument that I'm sort of willing to go with. That doesn't make him divine. It makes him very good at what he did, which is connecting with the people and bringing the word of God in a very simple way, let's say, to the people, to the masses, to the mob, like I spoke of yesterday. And there's nothing wrong with that. Definitely nothing wrong with that. If you are a good person and the Spirit falls upon you and you are called to spread a message, you are called to bring people together, you are called to lead by example, all of that good stuff, you can definitely do that. Does it mean that you are God incarnate? Definitely not. People could believe it, sure, but you're still just a messenger, you are not God. Ariel says, not sure everyone would want somebody to be their Messiah also. Right, which is why I said it would have to come at a time when we are together, united, right, as Hebrew people. Now, some people say that this is why the 10 tribes went bye-bye, in order to solidify us in our survival mode, but it still has solidified us. And also, right, why the oral Torah was written down, because it tightened and tightened and tightened. And It's that idea of the hourglass, right? Where it goes narrow, 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 the narrowest, and then opens up. And it's that sort of thing. That's how I see it. What makes you a Jew? My daddy was a rabbi, says Spider Rules. Well, what makes me a Jew is A, that I was born to a Jewish mother and father, and B, I try to hold to the traditions of my forefathers and my sires, and I try to hold to the Torah. Now, more to the parts that speak to me than the parts that don't speak to me, I'll give you that, but that still, it makes me perhaps a sinner, it makes me perhaps a man of cafeteria Torah, and I say that that's what I am. I pick and choose, and I make no apologies. So if you want to call me a non-Jew, by all means go for it. I'm not a Jew. I am just a simple dumbass. I'll go with that. I'm an Am Haaretz. That's what I am. Not even worthy of being called a Yehudi. So Nizar said to Ariel, in fact, 99% of the world would fight it to the death. Right, yeah, not my president, not my Messiah. Could be. Could be. Spider Rules, who's keeping the scroll? Answer that before you lie. I'm not sure which scroll you mean. There have been many scrolls. Which particular scroll do you mean? Elas says Messiah means teacher, not savior. Well, no, Messiah literally means anointed one. Mashiach, right? Messiah is Mashiach. Mashiach is to lehimashach, to be anointed with oil. It's what they did to prophets and priests and kings. Your ancestors killed the prophets. Yes, I don't deny this. My ancestors definitely killed prophets, and this is why they were exiled, and this is why they were nearly destroyed. So it also, right, this needs to be brought to bear on the situation, meaning we are probably not yet at that place of unity and of loving one another to be able to accept a king. And that's what I said before. It would either have to usher in that unity or come because of that unity. But yes, I don't deny my ancestors killed the prophets. Yes, they did, unfortunately. Unfortunately. I mean, Jeremiah says this in the book of Lamentations. Right? When the people say, right, in Eicha, in Lamentations, Jeremiah says that the people say, how could, the enemy come to the gates of Jerusalem and break them down? And Jeremiah says, how could the prophets be killed within the city walls, or in the actual temple? Zechariah, right? Okay, let's continue. The crazies have invaded the chat again, James Bong says. Don't say they're crazy, I think, because that would be simply dismissing them without any thought. But it's not that crazy, right? What Spider Rules is saying is not crazy. What Spider Rules is saying, I mean, he's casting aspersions and allegations, but people do that all the time, and it does not make them crazy. Although I say if you're going to cast aspersions and allegations, look to yourself first before you do that. But even if we grant let's say that he is blameless and pure as white snow, Spider Rules is, he's still not crazy. He's simply speaking his mind. This is part of what this channel is about, right? Ariel says to Sneeze, are you sure about that? You know that they say 92.78% of statistical values are made up on the spot. Ha 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 ha. Well, says Robert, my buddy has invited me back, but I like having a hiking partner for motivation. Well, if he invited you back, isn't he the hiking partner, or is he living on the mountain and you hiked up to him? They add to the algorithm, says James Bong. Yes, indeed they do. Devils behind the world system. Well, look, if you take devils as Satan, which literally means adversary, then yes, a system can be corrupted. A system can lead to all kinds of horrible things. But despite all that, some systems under certain circumstances can be beneficial. And it could be that once a certain system runs its course, and once the benefits run out, once it's no longer viable and sustainable, then you need to shift into something else. Definitely that's the case. We are humans. We are dynamic. So dynamic. But to say that the devils are behind the world system, I tend to disagree with that. Or rather, I would say that the devils are behind some systems, but that there is we organize ourselves around systems, whether it's, the tribe, whether it's the family, whether it's the village, the community, nations, and so on. That's also a system. And you could argue, no, those are all systems of control, and man is supposed to be free. It's like, okay, there comes the Torah that says, here is a system that seems on the outside as if you're a slave to these commandments, but it frees you. The work of Adonai frees the individual. That's part of what the Torah is saying. It's like, take on the yoke of the covenant. Take on the yoke of Torah and commandments. Take on the responsibility. Be accountable. And you will see how you become over time free of those things that hindered you, right? You will become free of the things that tethered you to the bad places, to the bad parts of you, for that matter. The Torah and the commandments, they have this purifying ability. Of course, it depends on the individual and how they do it, how they perform it, all that. But basically, the Torah is there for us to transcend ourselves as individuals, as a nation, as a human race. Right? Back to Eden. Back to Eden. Sanizar says that's all what I would consider advanced. Knowing the monthly 28 cycle is basic. Okay, so look, I knew that. In the Hebrew calendar, we have certain months that are 29, right, and some that are 30. And again, we have a 13th month every now and then, and a second Adar. Elah says the teacher Messiah teaches you have to choose to do true actions, the actions the teacher is teaching. Yes, it ought not just stay in the ether of intellectual prowess and understanding. If you have an aha moment, if your eyes are open or opened by something, if you are taught something, the best thing to do is to integrate it into your life. I mean, if it's good, and you will be able to see across iterations and and course correction whether or not this thing is good. You will be able to see whether or not the feedback you're getting in the immediate, and in the later, you'll be able to, hopefully, you'll have the mind and the discipline to discern whether or not this is considered good. And there are some things, for instance, where the Torah says, no, that is a red line. Like in this week's Torah portion, Shoftim, right? We have judges and we have enforcers and we have a king and we have different people who are part of a system and who lay down the law and enforce it. And we have, right, spiritual teachers and physical teachers, and it's all about eventually coming down to earth. What is it that I'm doing day to day, hour to hour? How am I conducting myself? Spider Rules seems blinded, says Robert Harrison. Well, look, we are all blind to certain things. I know that I am blind, willfully blind, and ignorant, and sometimes not willfully blind and ignorant. Hello. How was it? Did you enjoy it? Go to sleep, baby. Brush your teeth.
Sure. Brush your teeth and bring the garbage down, please.
Okay. Spider seems very, very young, said Sneezer. Spider, how old are you, if you don't mind sharing? The system? I will knock on your door soon, said Spider Rules. So you're going to break the system? Ordinarily, usually, if you're going against the system, you have a different system in mind. But what is it that you would want to do? Would you want to burn everything down and rebuild from the ashes, Mr. Spider? The work of getting saved comes from you, period. Elah says, yes, I'm inclined to agree. There are different external teachings, circumstances, people who can help you out. But the work is something that you do inside and outside, right? What is it that you're doing day to day? You not a Jew, that's the fact. Okay? Spider Rules, feel free to think that. No, I am not a Jew. I'm just a dumbass. Whatever name you call me, I'm still a dumbass. Ariel says, Robert, I do hope that you guys sing The Happy Wanderer by the Stargazers while hiking. I don't know the Stargazers. I may have heard the name, but I don't know it. Definitely don't know it. Elah says the whole idea is to bring heaven... Oh, whoops, it jumped again. I need to go back to where I was. Pardon me. Hang on a second. Elah... Where are you? Wow, there's a ton going on in the chat, and I hope to get to it. Hey, Good Times TV is here. Hey, my wife said hello. about 10 minutes ago. Hello, and now she's here.
Your son said hello.
My son said hello. Okay.
I think
Children of Apocalypsis is also here. Hello to you.
Sorry.
Yeah, he went to sleep a little after 10. I think he's down for the count. I hope so too. Ja Rashid is here. I hope to get to your questions soon. I'm going, I'm going bit by bit in the chat. Wow, there's a ton that I missed. That I haven't gotten to yet. Okay, let's see. Oh, wow. There's a ton. Where was I, man? Where was I? I'm sorry that the chat just jumps every now and then to the end. Should I just skip? No, I don't want to skip. I don't want to skip. I want to go here. Oh, here I am. Okay. At 11:07, he said, "You are not a Jew." Okay, cool. So, okay, you're welcome to think I'm not a Jew. That's all well and good. And us says the whole idea is to bring heaven to earth, tikkun olam. So the work comes from you. Right, you are the olam. You are the world. You have, right, what is it? The man is a small world, and the world is a small man. Right, in the sense that we mirror each other, and the 10 sfirot, and the... Sanizer says, Elah, then impossible to be saved. Rather, an earning of it is yours, but it was given beforehand. Okay, I agree. The circumstances or the instruction manual was given beforehand, but it's still on you to do the work, right? It's on you to read the Torah. It's on you to learn the Torah. It's on you to follow the Torah. It's on you to perform the commandments. And you can argue over written Torah, oral Torah, these commandments, those commandments. But yes, it comes down to the individual, the individual. What is a Jew, Spider Rules? Ariel asked. I could use a bong rip, says James Bong. I haven't smoked a bong since my teens. I'm not a regular smoker, so my lungs could not take it. Your house is left desolate, says Spider Rules. That's a Jew, if your house is left desolate, or were you responding to someone else? I'm not sure. Sanizer says to Elah, yes, but the work needs inspiration and understanding. I'm inclined to agree with both of you. Yes, that's right. Your judgment comes from your works, not Jesus's, Elah said. Interesting. Your judgment comes from your works, not Jesus's. I mean, that's not entirely true, whether it's Jesus or any other teacher that has ever been, a spiritual teacher. There's a point in time where you accept the teachings and the lore of the master as an apprentice. You take it all in. And then there's the point, hopefully, where you take your own path and break away from your master, right? That Zen koan, if you meet the Buddha on the road, kill him, something like that. And I've mentioned it before. I think that's what you two are talking about. So you're kind of talking about a before and after sort of thing, perhaps? Because when you are in the middle of that growth period, and when you're always hopefully growing, but when you're absorbing, right? First, you need to have this concrete foundation to a platform to jump off of. And I think that's what a good teacher gives. That's what a good master provides to disciples, to apprentices, right? It gives you that understanding. It's like, what did Picasso say? I've mentioned this before too. Know the rules like a professional, or follow the rules like a professional, so you can break them like an artist. And what I said about Samuel and David and others, and who bent the rules, people who were not priests, who engaged in priestly duties, like that was brought up a day or two ago. A Jew is not outwardly stop gender striving. I don't know what that means, Spider Rules. I'm sorry, I'm ignorant. Can you dumb it down for me? Jesus taught parables. Balance, says Ella. So Nizar says, have you earned your forgiveness, or do you need more time to become good? So, okay, he's speaking to Ella there. So, have you earned your forgiveness? You know, in the laws of tshuva, in the halachas of repentance, of returning, at least according to some of the halachic scholars, it's said that you are forgiven, let's say, or the sin, you are no longer sinning in a particular sin when even God Almighty would be able to bear witness to the fact that you would never ever return to that way ever again. And At least that's what Maimonides Rambam says, if I'm not mistaken, in the Laws of Tshuva. You need to earn that through doing it. You need to earn that through forsaking certain things or picking up other things. Kind of like Buddha, says Ella. Tishrei, Libra balance, right? So Tishrei is the 7th month according to the Bible, the 1st month according to the current calendar, so to speak. And Libra, right? The Moznaim, the scales, balance, which is also why we have the Day of Judgment, Rosh Hashanah, the Feast of Trumpets, on Tishrei, on the 1st of Tishrei. Ella, Sennheiser says, Ella, I'd say Jesus was the best Buddha and have many, many times. Well, look, he was definitely enlightened, and he wanted to bring that light to the people. And that's, I think, what a good scholar does, what a good sage does, what a good prophet does. Now, many times they are pilloried for it, and they are, all kinds of horrible things happen to the prophets, but they simply are called to do it. And in fact, according to halacha, if you're a prophet and you receive prophecy, you must let it out. You're not allowed, according to the halacha of prophecy, you're not allowed to contain it within yourself. You must let it out. And that can be very, I mean, we see with Jeremiah and others, they were beaten, they were jailed, they were hated, they were, so many things happened. Spider Rule says this live streamer and his devils blaspheme God. Yeah, by all means, I am a blasphemer simply because I say things that don't sit right with a bunch of people. So I am a devil in that sense, and I do blaspheme God according to what some people perceive as an adversarial element and a blasphemy and God. But I don't see the same things that they see when they say devils blaspheme or God. I doubt, Spider Rules, that we see eye to eye on this issue, but I'm willing to accept what you're saying and say, yes, there are definitely elements of me that are adversarial towards myself and others. There are definitely parts of me that are blasphemous, and there are definitely parts of me that turn against God. But I think when I do turn against God, as it were, and sully the divine revelation, I don't do it with the purpose or intention of harming creation or myself. I don't do it to rebel. And if I do it to rebel, I'm a soul rebel, right? Like Bob Marley said. That's what I consider myself to be. If I am a rebel, then I'm a soul rebel, meaning I may be rebelling, but I'm aiming for the good. And yes, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, but I strive to not only have good intentions, but also in my own stupid way, make a little bit of good in my life, in the lives of others, however slightly, and over time it compounds, and over time it will be able to tilt the scales of my devilry, and they will be abolished, and they will be forsaken, and I will be able to, to continue in earnest and have new challenges. Medi Buddha, so Buddha means enlightened, or that's Bodhi, right? Bodhi means enlightened one. Many Buddha taught unconditional love, dying even for animals, but none proved unconditional love for every other. So yeah, you say that Jesus sort of personified this unconditional love. And maybe that's the case. I don't know. I didn't know the guy. But again, even if he did and we can learn a lot from him, he's dead. So we can learn from his teachings, but we don't follow the dead in the Hebrew faith. Jesus is God, says Spider. Okay. So he answered Sneezer. Sneezer asked him, who is your God? And he says, Jesus is God. James Bong says, I used to have tons of penis envy. The most powerful strain of magic mushrooms on Earth from Colombia. Right, so penis envy is a type of psilocybin mushroom. No more for me, he says. Spider Rules says, why you repeating something? Like the Muslims, what God are you talking about? Well, I'm assuming he's talking to Sennheiser there. Jesus is not a trinity. Well, it's my understanding that Christians, or certain Christians, say that the Trinity has Son, Father, and Holy Ghost, or Holy Spirit, and that Jesus is that Son element, S-O-N, right? And some say that he is Son, S-U-N, which is why many times he's depicted with the sun around his head and with that halo, that light coming out. Couldn't talk right for a year, says James Bong. That must have been quite an experience. Sneezer says, Jesus is God, as are we all, but Jesus the best part. Robert says to Spider, he is a Jew. Hey, you know what? There's no point in arguing. If somebody says you're not a Jew, I say, okay, I'm not a Jew. If he says you're a blasphemer, okay, I'm a blasphemer. If I'm the Church of Satan, okay, I'm the Church of Satan. It's like, okay. Talking about a Messiah when they rejected Jesus. Yes, this is a thorn in the side of many folk. Yeah, it definitely is. The mere existence of the tribes of Israel nowadays, of the people of Israel, certainly in their ancient homeland, is a thorn in many sides. Hello, my friend, says Sir Smokes a lot. Good to see you. How far are we behind today? And he says, hi, Sneezer. Hello, Sir Smokes a lot. Good to see you again. Jesus wasn't a Jew, he is God, says Spider Rules. Okay, if you say so. So do you deny that he was part of the kingdom of Judah? Then that he lived in Judea? Or at least part of the time? That the pilgrimage that he made to the temple, the pilgrimages, plural, that he made to the temple were in the temple of Solomon. Were in the temple of, not the temple of Solomon, the second temple in Jerusalem. Although that is disputed. It's disputed, so who am I to say? A body was prepared, says Spider Rule. So once again, that God incarnate idea goes against the Torah. So that's where I draw the line. He could have been all of those things and the most blessed teacher and prophet and sage. But the second you say, and this is God himself, that's where the Torah says, nope, not happening, nothing doing. And I go with what the Torah says in that matter. Children of Apocalypse says, yes, the Trinitarian was a 4th century development. The anti-Nicene church was monarchian, as in one king monarchian. I'm not sure what you mean. Okay. Sneezer says to children, I disagree. Jesus mentioned sending his helper, the Spirit, and on the cross prayed to his Father. There is definitely a Trinity in Jesus' perspective. Okay. Spider Rule says Jesus called them devils. That's not a Trinity. He says he was flesh when he prayed. What are you talking about? You lack knowledge. So the followers of Jesus are going back and forth in the chat. Cool. God isn't only Hebrews. What do you mean? Are you talking to Spider Rules? I'm not sure what you mean. Jarashid, hello. Is Judaism Zionism? Well, again, I differentiate. There are 2 types of Zionism. There's Mosaic biblical Zionism, as it's laid out in the Torah, which basically means if you go against the covenant, eventually you will be cast out. But even when you're cast out and you're left just, bereft of all of your kingdom, bereft of your towers and of your palaces and of your temple, and living as slaves in a foreign land, even then the covenant exists. And even then, in your squalor, you will be called back. You will return to the covenant. You will return to the land of your forefathers and foremothers. That's biblical Zionism. The modern day Zionism is a product of that original Zionism. But, right, in the second half of the 19th century, there started to become a movement, right, and Herzl and the Congress of the Zionist Congress, and that's already something which is not religious, at least not outwardly. It was simply, let's go back to the land of our fathers. Let's go back to the historical land of Israel. And it was almost independent of divine revelation, though since one preceded the other, I see it as built on top of it. And again, it depends on how you define Judaism. It depends on how you define Zionism. So, is Judaism Zionism? I will say that biblical Zionism is baked right into Judaism. Modern day Zionism is not necessarily baked into Judaism. It depends on how you see it playing out, on your views of whether or not we are supposed to initiate or whether we are supposed to be passive and wait for something external to deliver us. That's where it breaks down, right? That's the crux of that's the word, of the debate between Zionists and anti-Zionist Jews. What do you people think? Is Judaism Zionism? Robert Harrison says to Spider, he said, I came for the lost of the house of Israel. Sneezer says to him, and as flesh, distinctly not completely God. Okay. And Spider Rules responds, debate me with facts, don't debate me with your nonsense. See, I don't... Okay. I mean, you guys are debating in the chat. I hope it's ongoing. I hope that you will be able to learn from one another, from each other, or one another. I think it's better, says Ela, to say God is not religion. No, God is definitely not religion. No, religion is man-made. God's right is revealed in spirituality and in the physical world. Religion is something that was made by men for men, right? Mankind, that is. Men and women too. So Spider Rules says he wasn't half man, half God. He humbled himself, taking on the body of flesh. And once again, I always say this, or when it does come up, I understand why it would be the case that so many people would want to see God incarnate. Because, oh, here is a living human being that I could actually follow, as opposed to this amorphous God that has no image, and that we are commanded not to make a graven image, right? Moses, all the time, remember, you saw nothing. You saw smoke, you saw fire, you heard the horn, there was thunder, but you did not see God. And even the divine revelation that was revealed to Moses, a once-in-creation person receiving a once-in-creation revelation, whether it's the burning bush with Ehyeh Asher Ehyeh, or whether it's at Mount Sinai when he received the tablets, or whether when he saw the back revelation of God, right? A person cannot see me and live. That's what the Torah says. So we are lacking that. We receive revelation, and even then we can't receive the full frontal nudity of God. Sneezer says to him, no different than you or me there, though Jesus was born to virgin and resurrected. So once again, something where I say, okay, we could say that he was born of a virgin, much like we say that Sarah, our mother, gave birth at age 99. 90. 90? Yes, 90. And resurrected, again, resurrection is something that occurs a few times in the Hebrew Bible and will occur eventually when we partake of the fruit of the tree of life, resurrected into an actual life, not life as opposed to death, not good as opposed to evil, but a new life, right, at the source. But still, from that to go to Jesus as God, that's taking it a step that I will not take as a Hebrew man and as somebody who tries to go with the Torah on this matter. The Magi found Jesus following the stars. Important this is. Well, look, I know that in the Talmud, and it's debated on whether or not this is the actual Yeshu HaNotzri, Jesus of Nazareth, that Christians mean, but it's said that he was the disciple of Rabbi Yehoshua ben Parachia, right, a scholar, a sage of the Second Temple era, and because of let's say, a falling out between them, Jesus just threw it all and went and made a sigil, is that the word, like a statue of the moon, and bowed down to it. Now, it could just be that the sages were trying to paint Jesus in a bad light, in a negative light, because you must remember, the Talmud was sealed in was it the 3rd century after of the Common Era, right? 300 years after the destruction of the Temple, right? The Mishnah was sealed, and then the Talmud was sealed 200 years later, I think, something like that. And so Christianity was already starting to develop, and the churches and everything was starting to spread, and they had to find, perhaps it's actually the way it went down, and perhaps it was the rabbis, right, our sages, who decided to write that about Jesus of Nazareth in order for the Israelites to stay away. I don't know how it went down. So yeah, Sneezer and Robert are debating fiercely with Spider Rules here in the chat. Ja Rashid said, is the Torah for or against Zionism? Right, so he said this over 30 minutes ago. Wow, I've been on for an hour and 20 minutes. So he said this at 11:19 p.m. That was 37 minutes ago. Maybe he's here, maybe he isn't. But yes, the Torah is for Zionism in the Torah Zionism. It's not necessarily for the modern day incarnation of Zionism. That is the debate, as I said, on whether or not it is mandated or right that we should take the initiative or whether we should stay behind and wait for a deliverer. Ariel says, do you think anyone ever got stoned to death due to a simple misunderstanding after saying, please show me how to perform the mitzvot your way? Well, Ariel, are you asking me or are you going into the chat over there with... I'll address it very briefly. Do I think anyone was stoned to death due to a simple misunderstanding? No, because the Sanhedrin, the High Court, had to do many things in order to convict somebody of something that was worthy of the death penalty. And as I say every time I mention this, a Sanhedrin that would kill someone once every 7 or some say 70 years would be considered lethal. It wasn't something very common, despite the fact that many verses in the Torah say kill this guy, kill that guy, put him to death. Spider Rule says if you claim to be a Jew but reject Jesus, you're blaspheming. So yeah, I agree. I am blaspheming, not because I reject Jesus, but simply because I don't necessarily reject his teachings, but I definitely reject his divinity in the sense that he is God. That's where I draw the line. And if you say that I can't claim to be a Jew, well, to quote the dude, yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man. Synagogue of Satan. Ah, there it is. I was waiting for that to come up. Yes, I am. I am the synagogue of Satan himself. Jerusalem is mystery, says Spider. Babylon, mystery Babylon. This is the mark of the beast, that blasphemous mouth. Okay, but let me ask you this. Do you see absolutely nothing that is of value or not even value? Do you see nothing that is seeking about what I'm saying here now? Do you not think that there's any merit to anything I'm saying whatsoever simply because I'm rejecting somebody who you claim was God incarnate, when the Torah definitely many times goes against that idea? Do you see what I'm saying? And if you're saying, no, Jesus fulfilled that covenant and it's a new covenant, then I go, okay, the Torah says there will be no new covenant until a specific time. That time has not yet arrived. That new covenant, that new earth, that new heavens, it's not here yet. So you're sort of grabbing it at both ends. Children chimes in and says, he said his kingdom was not of this world. Many tried to force him to be king according to the Gospels. Seniza replies to him, and the Sanhedrin pronounced him their kingly sacrifice. Robert says, Yeshua asked God to forgive the Jewish people because they didn't know what they were doing, not to destroy them, right? Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. Yeah, I suppose, look, that's very, very, very self-sacrificial, and people call him the Lamb of God and the final sacrifice and all that, and it's lines like that, verses like that, sayings like that, that make it, that I can see why people are saying that. It certainly aligns with that type of thinking, and all of that could be true, and it still doesn't make him God incarnate. It still doesn't make him God in the flesh, and that's simply where I draw the line. What flavored tea? I'm having chai this evening. Good Times TV. Hello, Good Times TV. Nice to see you again. I hope you're still here. This was 35 minutes ago. He said, you're good because you don't know shit, and you would admit you don't know shit, and you put your head down. But these people take advantage of you, come and watch your show and say the dumbest shit. Well, we're all saying dumb shit all the time, myself included. But again, it's self-awareness. I know that I say dumb shit. I hope to say a little bit less with every video. I hope to gain a little bit of insight, a little bit of wisdom, a little bit of understanding and experience. And this informs me, right? This gets me information. There's more than... I'm ignorant on so many things, most things. Everything, I'd wager, I'm ignorant about, but bit by bit, day by day, I can make myself, hopefully, a little bit wiser, a little bit better. And of course, it takes time until that wisdom seeps down into the physical, being of me, and where I go, okay, good, let's go with that. That's simply the way I'm wired. And I'm not saying that as an excuse or as a way to shirk responsibility. There's definitely a great responsibility on the shoulders of anybody who takes on the covenant of the Hebrew faith. As for people taking advantage, I don't see it as taking advantage. I think that people want to have their biases confirmed and they want to be validated and they want to be on the side of what's right and they want to seem righteous. And it's not just virtue signaling. I believe that people really do have this desire, this need, right, to be accepted. And this is, of course, sociology, psychology 101, right? So Nezer says temple menorah wouldn't stay lit and door wouldn't stay closed. Yes, 40 years, or is it 80 years? 40 years before the destruction of the second temple. Yes, that is correct. And also, 40 years before the destruction of the temple on Yom Kippurim, on the Holiday of Atonement, the red thread would not turn white. The thread that was tied to the temple gate, to the door. The cross is a stumbling block for the Jews, said Spider Rules. I don't know what you mean by that, but okay. Good Times continues, you got these jerk-offs talking about converts, you guys talking, I'm talking about fake Jesus, you got them talking about all this disgusting bullshit, and they're coming to your show. Obviously, they picked you because you're the soft, nerdy Hebrew school kid that was sheltered from the whole world. I mean, I wasn't sheltered from the whole world. My parents raised me to not away from the world, right? My parents did not hide me away from the world, but there are definitely times where I chose to put my head down and focus on Torah, focus on, especially during my yeshiva years. So I wasn't sheltered from the whole world, but I will say, growing up Orthodox, modern Orthodox in Jerusalem, it's definitely a kind of shelter, if only because I wasn't the minority, if only because this is the land of the Hebrews and I'm a Hebrew man, and I'm living in Jerusalem. So in that sense, yeah, very sheltered, I suppose, in that sense. Good Times continues, but they would never come and say that shit to any of us in the synagogue, talk about Jesus or anything like that. They're always coming to people like you because they know you have a soft soul. Well, it says in the Mishnah, "Le'olam yehe adam rach kakaneh ve'al yehi kashe ke'erez." A person should always be as soft as a reed and not hard as a cedar tree. Right? When there's a storm, the reed can bend and the root stays. And so you can take the storm if you're a reed. But, right, you bend, the winds come at you, but then you go back. But if you're a tree, you could fall and become uprooted. So it's better to be soft than to be hard. Of course, there are certain times when that does not apply. But in the case of being a soft soul, I would take that as a good thing, ultimately. Also, because I'm not a debater, nor am I a master debater. I'm here to just say my piece and try to enlighten myself and try to see things, call things the way that I see them, through my eyes. And my eyes are blinded, and my eyes are faulty, and my eyes are the eyes of a sinner, which is why I don't trust them necessarily. It's an experiential, it's a progress, right? It's a progression of chipping away, like revealing a sculpture from a block of stone. That's what the Torah and the commandments are there for. You chip away at yourself, so to speak, to make something of yourself. Good Times says, we are Jews and we don't idol worship and we don't believe in a fake fucking God named Jesus. Yeah, that would be one way of putting it. What's up, says Good Times. You guys are taking advantage of him and his child speaking bullshit? I'm not sure what you mean. What do you mean by child speaking bullshit? And I mean, if that referred to me, definitely, definitely, things I say could be considered bullshit. But the big but, I like big buts, and I cannot lie. The big but here is that I have many years of experience, right? That whole lived experience thing. And to me, it is not bullshit. To me, the parts that are bullshitty have a tendency to fade away if there is a concrete foundation of truth or of seeking truth. Because I wouldn't presume to say, I know the truth, I am holding to. No, it's something I'm continuously seeking. That voyage towards that ideal laid out by the Torah, this is what protects you from the bullshit across time. I mean, that I think that's the case. I think. Hey, Arzu is here. Hello, Arzu. Good to see you again. Volleyball. Volleyball? What do you mean by volleyball? Because he's naive and he's a soft target. Well, I don't know if I'm naive. You know what? Let's grant that. Let's say, yes, I am naive. However, I'm not gullible, right? There's a difference, I think, between naivety and gullibility. I think I might be naive, but not gullible. As for being a soft target, um, a target for what? For allegations and blaming and it's like bring it on. Bring it on. I truly do not care. And I take that as, I mean, I take it, A, I take it in stride. B, I try to take it with good cheer and humor because after all, this is all zeros and ones, right, broadcasted. And this is, and plus, I put myself out here. I came here an hour and a half ago and pressed go live. So if I put myself out here and I'm broadcasting, it inherently means that I'm putting myself on that stage in order to be criticized. It's part and parcel of being the center of attention, be it with 10 people, hello 10 people, or be it with 1,000,000 people. Really, you guys, he says, bring the curse up on him. I'm not sure what you mean. Could you clarify, Good Times TV, if you're still here? Ja Rashid says, if JC was the Messiah, why isn't his name mentioned in any of the prophecies? None of the prophets mentioned his name anywhere. Well, you know, what's in a name? Spider Rule says, this is the beast system. Yes, I am the beast. And I am trying to be the beauty. I'm both. I'm beauty and the beast. Okay. If you're under the law, you're under the curse, says Spider Rules. Key. Good Time says, don't be a fucking idol worship or stop corrupting him. He's Jewish. His soul's supposed to be special, not like you guys. Well, see, that's also where I draw a line and say, no. That's othering in the worst, for me, I see it as othering in the worst possible way. Because if you're saying I'm supposed to be special, that takes away speciality from anybody and everybody else. But what I'm saying is that we are all special, or rather we have the capacity for revealing our speciality, right? We have that gift that we, each and every one of us, is supposed to give to the world. And if we live out our lives, as Thoreau said, in quiet desperation, and we miss the mark of being who we are and finding out truly over time, what is it that we can be? What is it that we can do? How can we manifest that image of God? How can we express that divinity through our actions, through our words? Then something is amiss. And that special thing inside of us never got a chance to shine through. And that is, if you have the capacity and the potential and you don't follow it, and of course the circumstances need to align, no judgment. Some people simply are born into horrible, dire circumstances and they are thinking of survival. They don't have time to consider the big questions. They don't have time to consider what is my purpose here in the world when they're hiding from, you know what I'm saying? So you got to take everything with a grain of hummus, and you got to take everything with, if you're talking about a soul supposed to be special, I'm of the opinion that every human soul is special of its own accord, right? Simply because you are a human being, and you have that capacity to manifest the image of God in a kind of fuller way that other creations do not, be it physical things like animals and plants, or be it spiritual beings like angels and demons. It's like we have a very specific thing, human beings, being the image of God. Let's continue here. Okay, wow, so much going on between Robert and Spider and Sneezer and Good Times TV here. What is the subject, says Arzuji Volleyball. Oh, I'm sorry, he didn't say volleyball, that's his username. So he said this at 11:27. The subject now is the same subject then, which is, we're talking about things as they come about. I have a few other comments that I wanted to get to. I have a few other... Hang on a second. The baby monitor just went off. Hang on. No, okay, he's not making noise, he's just turning. Let's hope he sleeps. Let's continue. Ariel says, Spider rules, if you don't want to idolize a person to the point that you label that person your God, be my guest. Oh, if you want to idolize. But I think that conforming to the body of an individual would be limiting God as I see it. Right, but I think that Christians understand that according to them, yes, he was limited and born by a virgin and made flesh, but it was, as they say in the Hebrew faith, yeridat tzorich aliyah. It was going down in order to go up, right? It was descending in order to ascend. It was having that big roller coaster dive in order to then go up and make the loop-de-loop. You know what I'm saying? Spider Rule says, you're still waiting for a Messiah years after you ejected the Messiah. Well, no, I'm not waiting for a Messiah. If he comes and is anointed and has his kingdom, great. I will follow if he's a good king, I'd want to follow him. However, I am not waiting for Messiah. I'm definitely not waiting for Messiah. Waiting for deliverance of some kind and for salvation of some kind, sure, but it's something that I bring with my own actions or lack thereof, So no, I'm not waiting for a Messiah. If you want to say the people of Israel are waiting for a Messiah, maybe, but I say that Messiah can be bypassed. We don't need a king. Just like Samuel told the people, Adonai is your king. You don't need a king. You don't need a flesh and blood king. Adonai is your king. Follow him. Good Time says, always remember, we only have one God, and it's the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God of Israel, not any fairy tale fake God named Jesus. Well, ironically, many people would consider the Hebrew God to be fake fairy tale mythology. Jarashid said, why don't any of the prophets mention his name anywhere? Messiah just means anointed, said Good Times TV. Yes, that's right. Fuck, what prophets are you talking about? Jesus was never a fucking prophet or anything. What are you talking about? Well, I'm saying that he had the capacity to be a prophet, because if we say that he was the disciple of Rabbi Yehoshua ben Parachia, it means that he was very, very high up and a great scholar and a great sage. And the point of Torah and commandments, other than simply, serving the Most High God, and take that as you will, is to become a prophet. What does God tell Joshua? Are you jealous on my account? Right? 2 out of the 70, Eldad and Medad, are prophesying in the camp instead of outside of the camp at the tent of meeting. And Joshua comes and says, Eldad and Medad are prophesying, receiving prophecy in the camp. And then God, he said, do something about it. And Moses tells them, are you jealous on my account? I wish that all of God's people would be prophecy, and that His Spirit would be poured upon all of them. So I can definitely make the statement that Jesus, Yeshua, was a potential prophet. We all are potential prophets. So I don't see anything wrong with that. Hey, Nancy Roach is here. Hello, Nancy Roach. Don't ever apologize for that shit, says Good Times. No, I don't apologize for rejecting Jesus' divinity. I've simply come to understand that there is a case to be made for his teachings, but not for him as king, that was actually king, or as God incarnate, right? He was divine to the extent that each and every human being has the capacity to manifest the divine image. In that sense, he was like the rest of us. Unfortunately, too many prophets, your ancestors, have been killed. Yes, Yes, and I didn't deny that either when that came on in the chat. Oh, pardon me. Spider Rules say Muslims claim the same thing. I don't go with they say your God is Satan, he is the father of lies, Jesus is God, come find and kill me. Well, I'm not a Muslim, so I'm not going to kill you. I wouldn't want to kill you either way, even if I'm not Muslim. You can't blame HN, says Robert, for the evil that fell on the prophet. Well, look, this was way before my time, but I, according to many people, am the continuation of that blasphemous, prophet-killing, God-denying people. Spider says, the wisdom of the world is foolishness, so you calling Satan advisory is wrong. Did you mean adversary? That's literally what the word Satan means in Hebrew. You the same ones who removed verses out of the Old Testimony. Okay, what verses were removed, Spider Rules? I'm curious. Because yes, you can make the argument that certain things were changed, and we have the Dead Sea Scrolls that have different things in the Torah itself, let alone the prophets. So I'm willing to accept the fact that there were different traditions corresponding to different ways in which the Torah came down. But what verses particularly are you saying that we removed? And if we're the same ones, okay, what was removed? Let me know. And do you have the originals without the verses that were removed? Israel is not a state. Why you fighting over land and say God told you to kill? So I make no such claim. Sorry, guy, I'm not the debating type, and I make no such claim. Elah said, while the Messiah is often seen as a savior, deliverer, or anointed, the role of teacher is integral to the Messiah's function in bringing wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. Yes, I'm inclined to say that's true. I'm inclined to say that's true. Right? What does it say? It says, V'haricho b'yirat Adonai. Right? He will use his shnaz to discern the fear of God. And that idea of the nose, right? The nose is something where it can either be in anger. It's called af. Af is one of the husks, one of the klipot, one of the four parts of the negative side of the wickedness, right? The dark forces. But af also can be a lengthy breath, a clarifying, purifying breath. You know what I mean? Where you can take a moment and pause and use the intellect. So breath and the kind of Torah that is associated with the Anointed One is a little different according to prophecy. Oi, oi, oi. Hang on, the baby monitor went off again. Nope, still not making noise. Let's hope he sleeps. Let's hope he sleeps. It's after midnight. It's after midnight. Should I say goodbye? What I'm reading right now in the chat came in at 11:33 p.m. and it's now almost 50 minutes afterwards, and there's still so much to go. And I would love to get to everything, but I think I might stop now. Let's continue a little bit more. Spider Rule says Elah is Satan's mouthpiece. Mouthpiece. Let me ask you, man. Let me ask you, Spider Rules, if you're still here. What is it that you derive from calling someone Satan's mouthpiece when the things that Elah has been saying in this chat are... How can you... I mean, what is the argument there that you're making? If you're going to make an argument, give something more concrete, something we can work with, something she can work with. But to say that she's Satan's mouthpiece and simply dismiss everything as, bah, that's... I take issue with that. Now, it has its place, perhaps, because there are red lines where you say, nope, and I've demonstrated that here even today and every time. But where do you get it in this particular live stream? Where do you get that? Where do you see it? I'm curious. Ariel says, I'm planning to convert a model of Dark Helmet's helmet into a cycling helmet. Oh, that's so cool. Please do that. I can't breathe in this thing. Breathe? I can't breathe in this thing. So yeah, Spaceballs 2. Spaceballs 2. Let's hope it's good. Let's hope it's good. Arzu says, as a Muslim, I thought Jew traditions are rational than Christians, but overly obsessed at the same time. Obsessed with what? You could have a healthy obsession, or you can have an unhealthy obsession. Ariel says that might tickle HN's pickle. Yes, indeed, I love Spaceballs. What a movie. You speak in codes, I will decode them. He must not be talking to me. I'm just shooting straight from the hip. I'm not talking in code at all. Oh, wait, the chat jumped again. You know what? I'll take that as a sign, if you will, to continue this chat another time. And I will just mark where I stopped at 11:33. That's where I stopped in a chat. Oh, wow, there's so much more going on here. I would love to get to each and every one of these. And maybe I will in due season. So, I think I will say goodnight from Jerusalem, at least for now. Thank you. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for your kind attention. Thank you for the dialogue that you're having here. Thank you for enlightening me, for giving me things to contend with, things to think about. Whether we agree or disagree, we try to have this be in a good vibe, right? And hopefully that's what's being played out here in the digital realm. I hope we have a wonderful new moon, a blessed new moon of wealth, of prosperity, of success, right? Of doing good things, righteous things, being able to transcend our sin. Tomorrow in the morning or in the noon, I will be blowing the horn. I blow the shofar. I blow the horn every new moon, as was tradition in the temple. The horn and the trumpets, they would sound in the temple on the new moon. And so I try to do that on the first of every month, taking the idea not from the Torah, ironically, but from the Year of Living Biblically by A.J. Jacobs. And it's the one thing I do regularly that's not vegan, because I try to lead a vegan lifestyle, and the ram's horn is not vegan, it's an animal product. So it's the one thing I still do regularly once a month that is not vegan, but I do cherish it and I like doing it. And hopefully, I will be able to sound the horn tomorrow. Hopefully it will be a blessed new moon, a good new moon, where we will be able to atone for our sins, right? Through love, through understanding, self-compassion, people, self-kindness. Not to the degree where you're doing horrible where you are doing horrible things and thinking that you're righteous. You know, be with your head in the clouds and your feet firmly on the ground. I do hope, I do pray that we will eventually be able to come together under one banner of the Most High God and be one unified human race, make our way back to Eden, partake of the tree of life. I say this almost every stream because that's where I would like to be headed personally and collectively. And it may come in my lifetime and it may not, but I try and do what I can, and sometimes, many times, all the time, I miss the mark, but the place where I'm heading, God willing, will be a place of goodness, of righteousness. The Nazarite vow is something that points you at that direction in a way that's a little different than the mainstream individual. That's been my experience from talking to other Nazarites as well. So I truly hope that I will be able to eventually, truly be a Nazarite of God. And I may go to my grave not fulfilling everything. I definitely will go to my grave not fulfilling everything. That's a foolish errand. But to do what I can with the time that I'm given, to play the game as best I can, as honestly as I can, with the cards that I'm dealt, that's what I would like to do. To keep it humble, to keep reminding myself that I am just a simple dumbass in the Middle East. I hope and pray that this month will be beneficial to us all. God bless. Good night from Jerusalem. Be blessed. Be a blessing to others. I'll see you another time.